Isn't it so crazy how we have allowed men to convince us that they don't like transactional relationships when in fact every little single thing they do is transactional in nature? Let one of them spend a little bit of money on you. You'll see. Let one of them take you somewhere to eat. You will see that they're waiting for the return on that transaction. Men literally never do anything out of the kindness of their heart. The only time they do stuff is because they want something in return. Stop falling for the BS. The only time they don't like transactional relationships is when they can't afford it or they can't use it to manipulate you.
Hey ladies, I'm back with another video. And in this video, I really wanted to explore this topic of transactional relationships and the concept of all relationships being transactional. So a couple weeks back, I received a comment on my video about the Travis Hunter situation with his fiance and how it was going viral, how this previous clip that they had together where they discussed the origins of their relationship and how the now fiance was saying she was originally wasn't attracted to him. But then, obviously she ended up finding out his potential and then she ended up entertaining him. So originally this video started getting a lot of comments from, I guess, a lot of butthurt guys. Some of the comments have since been deleted, not by me, but by these users. But, I was able to go back in my email history and pull up one of the comments. And in one of the comments, the guy was saying that everything is not transactional because within the video, I had said that, most relationships are transactional and that the people complaining about her being a gold digger are not seeing the fact that she's getting something out of the relationship and so is he, right? He wanted her for her looks, her appearance. She's with him for his money, right? It's an even exchange. Both parties appear to be really happy. And that's how it goes. And that's how most well-balanced relationships are. So this guy left a comment and said, your relationship with God, he went on this whole diatribe about God and religion. And even with that, I said to him, well, even your walk with God or your relationship with God is transactional, right? Because God still expects something from the people following, right? Like the people that follow the religion of Christianity, that worship God, there's still expectations put on them as far as what they have to do within their walk with God in that religion, right? It's not something where they just get to say, oh, I'm a Christian, I worship God, and then they get to just do whatever they want or live however they want. They still have a certain set of rules that they have to abide by to get that covering over them, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Christians, please, in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, there's still something that has to be given up or done on your part on your walk with God. And even the fact that you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, when you decide to commit to that, you have to go through the baptism. That's still a transactional aspect of you having to give something up, you having to say, I'm going to accept this person as my Lord and Savior, right, over me, in order for you to have that covering over you. So there is absolutely no relationship that exists on the earth plane that is not transactional, right? Every single relationship is transactional. The relationship you have at your job is transactional. If you don't show up on time or come at all and do somewhat of a good job or a job at all, you're not going to get paid, right? And most employment is at will. So if you don't do the job, they'll just let you go. And if you're not happy with the pay, your work environment, you're free to go, right? So that's transactional. Relationships between men and women are transactional. Like, my girl, that's my girl now, in the first clip, like how she said, like, men are not going to do things for you in the early dating stage without having in the back of their mind how they're going to recoup something, right? We talked about this in the video about hookup culture. Men buying you drinks is them also putting up money with the hopes that they're going to get something in return for your inhibitions being lowered now by you being intoxicated. Okay, what did Miguel say? How many drinks is it going to take to get you to be with me? I'm hoping it's just going to be 2 or 3. Like you got, like, it's everywhere. Like everywhere we see it's the transactional aspect of life. Like we see it occurring, right? We see it pretty much everywhere. The only place I will say there can be a relationship dynamic in when there's not necessarily something expected of you in return is between a mother and child. But even with that, there's still some expectation of you as a child having respect and reverence for your parents, right? And a lot of parents do also keep it in the back of their mind that they hope that you'll return the favor when they're older and they need help and they need taken care of. Now, it's not a guarantee the child is going to do that, but there's still that hope there that that investment that they're making in you as a kid, if they're investing you in any form as far as your education, extracurricular activities, there's always the hope that they're going to get something back in return. So when people talk about transactional relationships, yes, every relationship is transactional, and I believe every relationship should be transactional. I do believe that there's something that you should be able to get out of every relationship, and it doesn't mean that you're trying to get over. To me, that is the sign of a healthy relationship. And the same way I see it as being a healthy sign in romantic relationships, it's also healthy to have that transactional aspect to friendships, right? We just did the friendship series where we went over how the friendship dynamic manifests in a situation where there's an imbalance, where there's someone constantly taking, using the other friend, draining them, and there's no reciprocity. And one thing I saw a lot of was, there's a difference between transactional and reciprocity. Not really. Both words, in my opinion, can be used interchangeably, right? Because both indicate that you're giving something to get something back, right? Of equal or greater value, right? And so I believe that within the friendship dynamic, a healthy friendship dynamic is one that has a transactional aspect of it too. We may not label it that, but it is what it is, right? By you giving me your friendship, I'm expecting we're exchanging loyalty, right? My loyalty for your loyalty, right? I'm expecting you to show up for me when I need you in the way that I'm going to show up for you when you need me, right? If I'm the friend that gives gifts and I show up for all the special events and, I'm supporting you, I would expect the same. And then if you don't get that, okay, guess what? When we see a trend of there being no reciprocity or no similar transactions going back and forth within the friendship, that's the sign that we don't need to be friends, right? Because we're not supporting each other equally, right? So, I could talk all day on this concept of transactional relationships and why every relationship is transactional, but I'm going to dip into some other stitches. So I'm going to let those play, and then I'm going to come back with my final thoughts on this topic.
People hate when I say this, but everything in life is transactional. Every relationship, whether it's familial, friendship, intimacy, every relationship is transactional. You are not going to repeatedly give somebody something that they are not giving to you back. If somebody uses you 20 times, there's only going to come a time where you're going to grow tired and stop giving exactly what you're giving to that person that keeps making them come back. You can't just have somebody do for you and you're just here doing nothing, taking up space. Yeah. No, I don't count favors, but I do count reciprocation. Because you're not about to just be here taking, and not giving nothing to me in return. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to be misused in life. Absolutely not.
This is going to be an unpopular opinion, but relationships are transactional, at least healthy ones. And let me tell you why. If two people in a connection are not bringing anything of value into each other's lives, what are we doing? People think being transactional means being all tit for tat, right? Like, I bought that for you, so you have to buy something for me. Or I did that for you, so you have to do the same thing for me. But what I mean by transactional is the fact that both parties need to be bringing something valuable into each other's lives. That could be maybe I'm a really good listener and I give you really good advice when you come to me for it. And maybe you're really fun and you're an amazing planner and you take us out on these incredible adventures where we can bond together. Of course, these things are never going to be exactly 50-50, but use your brain, use your discernment to feel out whether there is somewhat equal effort being put in by both parties. Because if one party decides that they no longer want to bring value to the relationship, there is no longer a transaction or an exchange happening, and that is no longer a healthy symbiotic relationship. That is now a parasitic relationship because one party is doing all of the taking. But realize that healthy relationships are transactional because there needs to be an exchange of value between both parties.
Your relationships should be transactional. I said it, and yes, I really mean it. Whether that's with a sibling, a partner, significant other, coworker, parent, any adult relationship. You have to start looking at things like a transaction in your emotional bank account. Is one of you making more regular deposits than the other? Is someone withdrawing a lot more than the other? Because if everything's only one-sided, sooner or later it's going to stop working. The aim is for both partners to make more deposits than withdrawals so the account can grow. Because when you're growing your account together, there's a little bit more room for both parties to be relaxed and not so focused on who has to withdraw when. And withdrawals will need to happen from time to time. For example, say you have to work late and you can't make it to your girlfriend's underwater basket weaving competition. It's a withdrawal because you weren't able to be there for them. Totally understandable. It happens. Life happens. But let's just say that happens 10 times in a month without any kind of deposit being made. And a deposit can be something like cooking your partner dinner when they're busy, being a listening ear when they just need someone to unload to. There are all sorts of ways to make deposits. But if you're always only withdrawing, it might not be a really sustainable thing. So what are you supposed to do with this info? Definitely do not sit down and write down all the people depositing and withdrawing in your life. Start by thinking about the relationships that are really important to you. Look at your own deposits and withdrawals within those relationships. Could you be doing more? If you're the only one making deposits, is it worth talking to your partner, your friend, whoever the other person is, and communicating that you need them to do more? If only one person is making deposits, eventually both parties are going to have to evaluate whether they really want the relationship to continue to grow or even sustain itself.
So ladies, I really feel like those last few clips perfectly summed up how transactional dynamic to relationships is important and how it can actually create a healthy relationship in which both parties are getting something out of the situation and there is an even exchange happening and occurring. And this quote on the screen is one of my favorite ones. And the rough translation to it is essentially what does not add subtracts, right? And I believe that's very true to every aspect of every relationship dynamic in life. What is not adding value to you is taking away. And I really believe that that's how we need to start treating every single area of life in which we interact with people, whether it's at work, within family dynamic, within a friendship, within romantic relationships. If it's not adding considerable value to you in any way, then be mindful of the fact that it's definitely taking away, right? And I don't want to hear you guys saying, when you're encountering these guys and they're talking about, oh, everything should not be transactional and, oh, things feel so transactional. Those same men complaining about transactional relationships, listen to somebody like Kevin Samuels that was asking men to ask people, what do you bring to the table? What does that tell you? That tells you that they were trying to figure out what value are you adding to them. They're trying to measure and calculate in their mind what they're getting out of the situation by dealing with you. And that's the same mindset you need to go into with everything in life. What are you getting out of it, right? Even before you take that job and you accept that salary and you accept that title, what are you going to get out of that long term? Is it going to add considerable value to your resume profile, to your career path? That's what you have to look at. Everything in life is transactional, and you need to constantly be measuring and calculating in your mind how that person, place, or thing will add value to you. That's it for now. And until next time, I'll see you soon.